Well, first, I'd like to thank ICEers, in special Bia Labate, my friend and colleague, and you, Hoasca, for the opportunity to be here in this amazing conference. And I'd like also to moment. Do you know how to?
What do you want to do? Maybe. But there, people says it right there. Okay, just see the one that is here.
Well, and also, I'd like to speak a little about my relation with the theme of ayahuasca studies. I had my first experience with ayahuasca 22 years ago in 1992 in União do Vegetal, UDV. And at that time, I was a member of a Catholic religious order, the Jesuits. And after I did my master's study about UDV, my research was about UDV, and I was ordained priest in the Catholic Church, and after I resigned from priesthood, and I'm a participant of the União do Vegetal. I think this is good to express my relation with the theme, and also I think that these multiple attachments permits me an interesting perspective in my anthropological studies. And my theme is Hoasca Ethnomedicine, traditional use of Nove Vegetais, that means 9 herbs, by the União do Vegetal. And this presentation has 2 parts. The first part, it's from an article that I wrote with Bia Labate, Danisa Camurça, and Jonathan Ott, and it's published in English and also in Spanish. And the second part is based in my master's dissertation that's resumed in an article in this book, Ayahuasca Ritual and Religion in Brazil. And it's like an essay to do an anthropological interpretation about the use of Nove Vegetais. Some initial data about União do Vegetal. The founder of UDV is José Gabriel da Costa, called Mestre Gabriel. He was born in Bahia, Brazil, in 1922, and he passed away in 1971. In 1943, he went to Amazonia as a rubber soldier. That means he went to work as a rubber tapper during the World War II. And in 1959, he, for the first time, drank ayahuasca. And less than 3 years later, in 1961, it was the foundation of UDV. From 1965 to 1971, he was in Porto Velho and established there the UDV. As many of you know, ayahuasca in the UDV, it's called Hoasca, or vegetal, and the Banisteriopsis is called mariri, and the psychotria is called chacrona. but also, together with the regular use of Hoasca, in UDV, during a certain period in its history, there was the custom to add 9 species of plants to Hoasca. This infusion is called Nove Vegetais. That means 9 herbs. And sometimes there was a 10th species, João Brandinho. These herbs were added for curative purposes, which is to say they were employed, above all, for their medicinal properties. Nove Vegetais was never consumed regularly, but rather sporadically. The use of these herbs distinguished the UDV from the other Brazilian religions that use ayahuasca in their rituals, Santo Daime and Barquinha, and also this approximates the UDV to certain traditional practices of Amazonian healers, as described in the anthropological literature, particularly the widespread custom of adding a great variety of plants to ayahuasca. According to some testimony, Mestre Gabriel had made very few preparations of Nove Vegetais in the rubber region, maybe only once. By all accounts, the origin of this practice goes back to the time when Mestre Gabriel resided in the rubber zone. But the emphasis of the UDV has been the idea of spiritual healing. The preoccupation with institutionalizing the use of Hoasca led to the decision in 2001 to stop the use of Nove Vegetais and João Brandinho. Till now, they are not used in UDV. And to base this, there is a claim that Mestre Gabriel, when he prepared the Nove Vegetais, linked their force to the vegetal, Mariri and Chacrona. Then it was no more necessary to prepare the vegetal with the 9 species. In our article, we present this table with the scientific names of each one of the plants. And this is still a work in progress. The first time, the person that first time presented these names was Luiz Eduardo Luna, with the advisor of Moacir Biondo, a mestre of União do Vegetal. And when we were writing the article, we interviewed Moacir Biondo another time, and he expanded this table. And now you have all these species, its botanical names. And I will present very fast the 9 plants, only to you to see them. And maybe one use, there are many medicinal uses. Then you have Breuzinho, that is used, for instance, in treatment of colds, bronchitis, and headache. Apuí, used for hernias, torsions, and contusions. Samaúma, used by women as a birth aid. Castanheira, bark infusions for hepatic problems. Pau d'arco, used in treatment of tumors. Imburana de cheiro, vapor or bark infusion for colds, bronchodilatory activity. Mulateiro, used for dermal mycosis and to cure wounds. Massaranduba, used for renal calculi. Carapanaúba, bark infusion with antiseptic and anti-inflammatory action. And João Brandinho, used for toothache, as analgesic. And there are also probable relationships between plants used by UDV and those employed in traditional practice by Amazonian healers. Then at least 5 of the 9, 10 with João Brandinho species are also used by Amazon healers by according to anthropological literature. Then this table, you can see some medicinal properties, and according to the pharmacological literature, the use of each one of the 9 or 10 species. And you see that many of them have many different uses: antibacterial properties, gastrointestinal problems, treatment of this, analgesic or anti-inflammatory, treatment of respiratory problems, gynecological problems, aromatic properties. And finally, the second part, I'll try to do an anthropological interpretation of the use of the Nove Vegetais. The reflection on the discourse of UDV disciples referring to their symbolic experience led me to consider the borracheira, that means the effect of vegetal, how UDV members called it, as an accented liminal experience where there may be an experience of mediation through which the person articulates elements of his or her life and of the worldview of UDV, which were previously experienced as broken. By approaching the conceptions and representations of UDV members, it was possible to apprehend how certain aspects of those participants' lives interact with such religious ideas and are articulated with them. The same could be done considering the life of Mestre Gabriel. Could it be considered as a syncretism? Or is this concept inadequate for this reality? In the UDV, there are elements of popular Catholicism and Spiritism of Allan Kardec, as well as Amazonian shamanism and Afro-Brazilian religions. Then I propose the idea of encompassment. This idea denotes both the subjective experience of being swept up by the effects of ayahuasca and the way in which the UDV as a symbolic system draws to itself elements of other religious practices. Like a cyclone, in the effect of ayahuasca, many different provinces of meaning are gathered, and they present themselves to the subject as a new unity. The use of the Nove Vegetais can be understood as an expression of this encompassment. Why not add 1 or 2 different herbs according to some specific need to cure a specific disease? Because the very way the ayahuasca experience in UDV is enacted is to gather many different things to constitute a new unity. For example, different music styles in a session. The encompassment of these different herbs creates a new infusion that symbolizes the healing power of vegetal. And the last one, as an expression of this encompassment, I consider that the use of Nove Vegetais is not merely a very specific and marginal topic, but a theme that causes the emergence of a central point of reflection, the relationship between an experience that is Unitarian and the ethos of contemporary societies that are dualistic and tend to separate. On the one hand, practices liable to be approved by the state, and on the other hand, practices disapproved. Medicinal purposes and religious purposes, and body and spirit. The use of Nove Vegetais may be regarded as a cultural heritage related with an experience of encompassment. Will this heritage be continued in the future? Thank you.